What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the Blue Review. I am Greg Bergman, at Bergman Greg on Twitter and at Bergman Greg on Instagram as well. With me is Matt Moreno, at mmoreno1015. And this is for DodgerBlue.com. Dodger Blue, which is the most subscribed to, the most read, visited Dodger fan site out there. So thank you guys for being a part of that. That's a huge deal. So thank you very much. I know there's a lot going on. We have to talk about Mookie Betts. We got to talk about Lindor. We got to talk about what we think about the actual offseason so far for the Dodgers. And we have to talk about other things, but I really only want to start in one spot. And I'm sure you all read the story in the Boston Globe today, but Rich Hill was arrested with his wife outside of a Patriots game for disorderly conduct. That's amazing to me. It just makes me love Rich Hill that much more. I'm not kidding.
When I first saw the headline, I thought, what, like Rich Hill and his wife? Because they're not people you would expect to really end up in any sort of trouble by any means. And so I saw that and I thought, oh, great, like what could have possibly happened? And then you click the story and you see that it had to do with the bag policy that the NFL has at Gillette Stadium and this and that, and kind of not a misunderstanding, but the story is told in the Boston Globe was that Rich's wife tried to get in at multiple gates. They told her to leave, and then she was going to get arrested and I think taken to their local jail, and that's when Rich kind of stepped in. But yeah,
started throwing down. No, I'm just kidding. No, he apparently was upset because she had a fanny pack.
Yeah,
it was an oversized bag as a fanny pack. Like, I get it. It wasn't, you couldn't see through the bag, and that's the whole big thing with it, and especially with the NFL because of everything that's happened. Yeah. But come on. I mean, look, you got to. If there was ever a time where you're supposed to say, "Do you know who I am? Yeah, I'm Dick Mountain." That was that time. That was the time for him to say that.
Especially since he pitched for the Red Sox too. I mean, I know it was it was multiple years ago, but
it doesn't matter.
He's been there. He's from the area. He's spoken very fondly and highly of the Red Sox organization and the city. So yeah, I mean,
it's just like good. Whatever, Rich Hill, Dick Mountain, we salute you. Thank you for just being you. And I'm sorry that you were arrested because that was ridiculous, but funny nonetheless. Yes. So we get to talk about it, and that makes me happy. But either way, obviously, the next biggest thing is obviously what's going on with the Dodgers in the postseason in general. Or in the postseason, the off-season, because nothing happened in the postseason, which we should really open that wound. But in the off-season, they've done nothing. Like, legitimately, they've done...
Well, Blake Treinen.
Well, okay, fair, fine, sorry. Blake Treinen which I actually literally like that signing. I think it's a good one. It's not because it's a bullpen piece that they needed bullpen, but because it was 1 year, it was $10 million. It was something where it's like, okay, it's kind of low risk, high reward kind of deal. If you don't like him... out the door, see you later. So I like that, but Dodger fans are upset because they didn't get Strasburg, they didn't get Rendon, they didn't get Cole, they didn't get really anybody that were those of the three big guys.
And then Ryu last night.
And then Ryu left last night. Which let's actually start with Ryu last night before we get into the other three. Ryu leaving last night. I'm okay with that.
Yeah. So going into the offseason, I thought it would take about 4 years and $80 million for anybody to, whether the Dodgers or any team, to sign him. Then when Zach Wheeler signed his contract early on,
huge deal.
Strasburg got his, obviously a huge deal. Cole got his record deal. Bumgarner got his. Keuchel just signed. I know it's 3 years, 55, and then the vesting option for the fourth. I thought, I know Ryu's a little 32, some injury concerns, but coming off 2 good seasons, 1 really good season.
Right.
Maybe it was going to be a little bit more, but 4 and 80 got it done. I was a little surprised that he ended up in Toronto. I didn't necessarily think he would make the jump to the American League, and if he did, I thought it'd be Anaheim.
Right.
And the news came out. We tweeted out the story about it, and we had a lot of angry comments. And I know this is going to kind of tie into everything. Okay. Yeah. Which was kind of funny because a couple weeks, maybe 10 days ago, whenever we post, Dodgers are still interested in Ryu, whatever the case was, it was always the majority of the feedback we were getting. He's injury prone. He's too old. Don't re-sign him. Not worth it. And then he went somewhere else. And then it's, how could the Dodgers let that happen?
What's going on? That's crazy. See, okay, so let's be completely honest about Ryu. I loved him. I thought he was great as a Dodger. I think he ends up through his 7 years. Is that how long he was there? About 7 years?
Yeah.
Something like that. Through his 7 years, I think he has the 4th lowest ERA of Dodger pitchers, period. which is really great. And I think but he's 31, 32. Yeah, he's 32 years old. He is a little bit injury prone. I don't think that 4 years. I don't think he'll get 4 good years in Toronto. I don't know if he'll get 1 good year. I think maybe this first year will be good, but that's about it. I don't think he's going to get the same kind of production that he did in Los Angeles. And I would have loved to see him come back to the Dodgers in a 1, maybe 2 year deal kind of thing. Maybe in a longer deal, but just not for a lot of money. 4 years, $80 million is too much for the Dodgers for Rue. And I'm happy for him. Good job getting your money. That's great for you. It's great for your family. Wonderful. That was not going to be with the Dodgers.
Yeah, so when Keuchel got his 3 years with a vesting option, I thought, something like that could work for the Dodgers. Because if he gets that 4th year, it means he was pitching the first 3 years essentially. The starts were adding up, or the innings pitched, all that was being logged, whatever the case was.
Right.
But yeah, 4 years guaranteed with at 80 million, 20 million average annual value, like it's a bit steep.
Yeah, just way too much money for Rue, and like we can look back on his time with the Dodgers and say, hey, he was great for what he did for us, but that's about as far as it's going to go. Now the other part of it goes back into now the actual Dodgers in the offseason in general, and I know you kind of I think we actually feel the same way about what's going on with the Dodgers this offseason, and I think most Dodger fans, when they actually sit down and think about it, kind of believe the same thing. We were talking about it before. Like, how do you feel so much about this Dodger offseason so far?
Yeah, so I get, we've a lot of the response to us on Twitter, Facebook, whatever the case is, social media, has been negative and frustration with the front office, and I can understand that because this offseason isn't necessarily happening in a vacuum. It's been multiple years now with Andrew Friedman and kind of how he operates. And as much as the Dodgers have won, they haven't been able to get over the hump, and that's been frustrating. So I completely understand that. If you just look at this winter, Steven Strasburg was never leaving the Nationals.
No.
He just wasn't.
Nope.
Garrett Cole, the Dodgers offered him 8 years, $300 million. Some of it was deferred. That's still a competitive offer.
Yep.
And we talked about it multiple weeks on the show. If you guys have been following along. We were both a little skeptical of really going past 6 years for Cole.
For any pitcher.
For any pitcher. But I understood that's what it was going to take. And, had they signed him for 8 years, 300, I would have said, okay, great. Let's hope for the best, obviously. He went to the Yankees. I don't know how serious he really was ever about coming to L.A. And then the Anthony Rendon situation, when it broke that he was signing with the Angels, shortly after there was a report that the Dodgers didn't believe that he had any interest in signing with them.
Right. Didn't even get to the table with him.
Which my initial reaction was, okay, is this a little bit of just, a defense mechanism, like just kind of throwing it out? Well, we didn't offer him because we didn't think he'd come. But then Rendon confirmed it himself.
Right.
So maybe if the Dodgers had said, here's a blank check, he comes, but you're not going to do that.
No.
So he genuinely seemed like he didn't have any interest in coming.
So with that, you have a couple things here. So out of all those, I wanted Rendon the most, obviously. He doesn't even come to the table. And when we talk about coming to the table, he said it, I'm not a Hollywood, I don't have the Hollywood lifestyle.
We can get into that.
There's the way that I look at it, and maybe this is the wrong way, maybe you guys don't agree with it, or maybe you don't agree with it. I don't know, maybe it's a little too political, but I'm not going too out of bounds here when saying he's from Texas, and he said, look where I'm from, guess what party I'm affiliated with. That was his words. Not verbatim, because I don't remember the exact verbatim, but basically said, I'm Republican, which totally fine. If that's who you are, that's who you are. He didn't want to be here in L.A. because it's a little more liberal. And when you're a little more liberal, that's the Hollywood lifestyle. And I don't think that's what he wanted. Orange County is known for being a little bit more conservative. Mm-hmm. Whether that's the final thing for him, I don't know. But I think that was a big part of it, is that I want to be in a more conservative area, whereas LA is more liberal.
The only thing I would push back on is playing for the Dodgers doesn't mean you live in LA. And sure. And I'm not pushing back against your point, because that's true. It's just with Rendon, I didn't really understand the comment, because you're playing for the Dodgers, who are in LA County, okay, but you can literally live where players don't live in downtown.
No, there's nobody here. And I'm sorry, but I don't just see Max Muncy out in the clubs getting down, I don't see Andrew Friedman being like, hey, let's pull him back, That's just not the type of Cody Bellinger. While he may, I don't know if I think he likes the green more than he likes the than he likes the drink, but That's just I'm just guessing.
And he plays video. Well, I know that he's an avid video game player. He's on Fortnite and all the other different games. So anyway,
this Hollywood lifestyle thing is not an actual thing. Like,
No.
I'm sorry, it's just not a thing. He just wanted to be in somewhere that was where you're not really seen. Like you're when you're in Anaheim. Look at Mike Trout. Like, he's the best player in baseball, and he's not heard of.
Yeah.
People don't have no idea who he is for the most part. I mean, they get it. He's the best player in baseball, so they know, but he's not out there very much. And so with the Dodgers, you get a little bit more of that. You get a little more scrutiny than you would down in Anaheim.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have Garrett Cole. He wanted to be a Yankee. I don't know how else to say it. He wanted to be a Yankee. So I mean, I've heard stories. I had a friend that played on the baseball team with him here at his high school, and he said he wore Yankee jerseys every single day. You saw the sign. The sign was like Yankee for life kind of deal.
Was it the same sign, or was
it was the same sign? Huh?
But like a copy, like a new version, just written the same, or literally the same sign? Where do you stand on that?
I think it was a copy of that. There's no way that he kept that exact.
That's
sign.
what I thought.
Yeah. There's just no chance in hell. But yeah, and then Strasburg, like you said, is not going anywhere. So who actually, if of the two pitchers, I wanted Strasburg more than Cole, but that's just I'm in the minority in that one, and I know that. But so after all of this, who else did you want? Like, what, as a Dodger fan, who else is out there you're like, oh my God, we should have signed him? There just isn't anybody there yet.
Right.
The Lindor trade is still pretty much out there and available. It's possible, him and Mike Clevenger. You got to give up a lot to make that happen. Mm-hmm. And Mookie Betts is still possible. So the offseason is not even close over. We're not even in 2020 yet.
Right.
So it's all still very much a possibility. Being upset, I get being upset about those three. There's legitimate reasons, and they went after it on Cole.
Mm-hmm.
They gave him a gigantic deal.
Yeah.
So either way, all right, let's see what a couple people are wanting to talk about here. I got Chris Mac and Cheese, who he likes to be called, because it's Masizjazek. Yeah. So Mac and Cheese says Lindor and Clevenger with 100. So then Jared Xavier Telez says Lindor and Clevenger together will cost way too much. They are going to cost a lot, but if you're going to make that move, all right, here's how I feel about it. When it comes to Lindor and Seager, I think Lindor is a better player, but I think if you just move those two, you're not changing anything.
Yeah, it's not enough.
It's not enough to change. If you bring in Clevenger, I think that's a big upgrade for the pitching staff. But I mean, obviously they want a lot for him, and there's a lot there. I think yes, Lindor's a better player. So are you okay with that?
Yeah, my question is, Clevenger's obviously he's a young pitcher who's still on the rise and improving and already impressive.
Yep.
My question would be, where do you project him compared to Dustin May? Assuming that Dustin May probably has to go in that trade.
I'm not going to lie to you. I don't know enough about Clevenger's style of
pitching.
Pitching.
I mean, I agree. Yeah, I will agree with it. Yeah.
I don't know exactly. So, I mean, I know I've looked at his stats. That's about as far as I've gone with him. I haven't looked into how he plays. I don't know what pitches he throws. I don't know if he throws 98 miles an hour or if he throws 95 with a cutter. I mean, I just don't know what his deal is. But so Dustin May, I know what he does. I know he can be a number 3-4 starter on this team. I know he can be, and with the starters that you have already, where you have Buehler as your star, Buehler, Kershaw, Aureus, May, Gonsolin switching off back and forth, Maeda's still there, Stripling's still there. I think it's a pretty good pitching staff, and you can still find somebody in the minors, or you can trade for somebody at the trade deadline. Yeah. So you're kind of in agreement there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure where I wouldn't necessarily be opposed to that trade. I guess it would kind of depend on what the Dodgers ultimately have to part with.
Right.
I don't necessarily see the Indians doing it without Lux, if you take Lux out, I think you need to end up sending another 2 prospects to make up for him. Maybe not number 1 type prospect, but you have to appease the Indians a little bit.
Right. You do. You're gonna have to give up something there, and that's right now. You're in a point. Same with Mookie Betts. Where Mookie Betts, you still have to give up something to get something, and they're gonna probably give you David Price as well in that, right? So
I would. Yeah, that'd be my guess. Is if I don't see the Dodgers making either of the trades without receiving a starting pitcher along with either Betts or Lindor.
Right.
So with the Red Sox, I mean, obviously the big name just because of his contract and they're trying to get under the luxury tax is David Price.
Right.
If you're the Dodgers and you're taking on that contract, you're probably not sending as many prospects as you would in a trade with Cleveland. But then the flip side is, what what are you going to get with David Price, and also Mookie Betts is going to be a free. I know there's a possibility. There's maybe the option of a window to negotiate an extension with him before the trade is done. I don't see him signing an extension now unless the Dodgers say, literally here's $400 million.
Pretty much.
Then okay, which I don't see them doing.
I mean, they have money. If they have the ability to do $300 million over 8 years for Garrett Cole, they have the money.
They certainly can do it. I just don't.
I don't think it's going to happen either. Got Soul says Walker Buehler is an ace and Kershaw's 31 is slowing down and Aureus is not durable. I mean, I don't know how you can say Aureus is not durable when he's like 20.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. I know he had the shoulder injury. That seemed to be more of a freak thing than anything else. It wasn't like his shoulder went because there were a ton of innings that he's thrown already.
Right.
Hopefully he's past that and will be able to kind of stay in the rotation.
Right. He didn't have Tommy John. He just had shoulder surgery, so it was not the one that keeps you out for a year and a half or whatever it is. And Brandon Wong, the media lied, saying that he was an Angel fan. I think they're talking about Rendon there, obviously. Yeah. I mean, it's you say what they want you to say, especially when you're in the media. Jared Xavier Telez says Dylan Betances and Ken Giles. Ken Giles has been pretty terrible for.
Yeah, I don't know if
I have no interest in Ken Giles.
Betances, I think I would still try to get even, and maybe 1 year with an option type thing. It might have to be 1
year with an option. It has to be 1 year with an option. If you're going anywhere else in the bullpen, it's 1 year. You don't give anybody 3-year deals. You've already got Joe Kelly doing that. Just because this may be one of the last times I get to say it. The bullpen at the beginning of the year is not the bullpen at the end of the year, so don't go ahead and give these 3-year deals out. Sorry, I had to do it. LA Dodger fan Sophia says, I would not trade for Lindor, but I would get Mike Clevenger since our weakness is pitching. So, I mean, we just went over the pitchers. Do you still believe that the pitching is the weakness?
Yeah, I definitely agree. They need a starter as far as I'm concerned.
Okay.
Because they have we've been at odds over this. They have starting pitching depth.
Right.
In terms of literal bodies.
Okay.
To get through the season, I don't see it. May is not going to take on a full-time role. Gonsolin's not going to take on a full-time role.
But they can both do it.
I think you just need to kind of be careful with how you rotate the guys. I think you want them to have some sort of rhythm, and sure, maybe you can figure out a way to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But also, and then looking to October, because barring anything crazy, the Dodgers as is right now, this roster will win you the NL West again. They're head and shoulders better than everybody else in the division. Right. So when we talk about trades and stuff, it's always October.
Right.
And I guess if you can maybe if the starting staff stays the way it is to start the season, you get to July and then you make a trade for someone, fine. But I think they need pitching definitely for October.
Yeah. And Jared Saber says, look at Giles second half still. Doesn't do anything for me. Tim Durama says, are we going to make any move before this week is over? That's tough to say.
Yeah, I don't know how much they work through Christmas Eve and Christmas. I don't know. Every front office is probably different.
See, it's most likely things could possibly happen. There's no telling what's going to actually happen. But for the most part, I would not expect anything to happen until early January.
Yeah, that's
January
fair.
2nd, at least after the new year. Because everyone just kind of shuts down at this point. You're going into Christmas with your family, Christmas Eve, and then you only have a couple days before you get into the New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. It's just a weird time to do business, and where people don't want to. They go on vacation, they're with their family. It's most like if you have kids, they're out of school and they're at home, and so there's just a lot of stuff going on. And it's not imperative that you have a guy on December 27th opposed to January 3rd. Yeah. It doesn't make
especially now. I mean, it was strange the last couple of years when the off season there was no activity. The winter meetings came and went with literally nothing, and then you were kind of getting into February and guys still weren't signed. But that's sort of become the norm now. Obviously, this winter was different. Thank God.
Well, Scott Boras basically put his foot down and said, "I'm making $1 billion." Oh, there goes the microphone. So sorry for that loud noise.
So yeah, I mean, to say by the end of this week, I don't know.
Yeah, I wouldn't expect it. I mean, maybe hope for it, but I would not, really expect for that to happen. That should be okay. Yeah, sorry if that was loud and weird noises, but All right, and I guess they're saying there's Slapdick Prospect, which, by the way, is the best, absolute best nickname on and here whatsoever. That is my favorite Periscope name because that was a great. Was it Ian Snell, right? Or was it Blake Snell? Sorry, Blake Snell. Yeah. Who the hell is Ian Snell? I did that before too, but Blake Snell was called this guy. Called him a Slapdick Prospect, which was fantastic. Can they do a 3-team trade with the Reds as a way to keep Lux and May? Maybe Seager goes to the Reds. I mean, can they? They can do whatever they really want. Will they? I don't.
Yeah, I guess possibly. If you do that, I think Keibert Ruiz is then gone, which he may be included in any of these trades, whether it's 2 or 3-team anyway. Josiah Gray is maybe gone. Maybe Gonsolin gets moved because I'm not familiar enough with the Red system to know who they can kind of supplement to make up for the Dodgers keeping Lux and May. But yeah, I mean, I guess when you get 3 teams, anything is kind of possible. It could get real crazy.
Right, and this whole thing with Lux too. So I know a lot of people are saying, "Well, look, God, he's Gavin Lux. He's a rookie coming up this year if he makes the team. And why are we not just giving him up for some big time player?" Andrew Friedman has done this year in and year out. He knows who the player that is going to come up is going to be. Bellinger, Seager, Buehler would all be gone right now.
Mm-hmm.
If Dustin May would all be gone right now if he would have been gone for something like JT Realmuto or sorry about that. Somebody else like Cole Hamels would have been a Dodger at this point because if you move all these guys around. So if Andrew Friedman doesn't want to move Gavin Lux, there's a reason for it.
Yeah, that's fair. And I mean, if it's tough because if Lindor had more years of team control, I think they'd be more open to it. And it's where I hesitate with things is I don't know how the Dodgers are going to kind of act in free agency. They have the ability to spend. They obviously, like we touched on earlier in the show, they went after Cole pretty aggressively.
Mm-hmm.
So, but ultimately, free agency is a crapshoot, and so if you give up Gavin Lux, and you quote unquote only get 2 years of Francisco Lindor, and you don't win a World Series in that window, and he leaves, that could be tough to kind of.
People are going to go nuts and be like, "Oh, look, you got rid of Gavin Lux." Like
right.
It was the same thing that happened with the first baseman Paul Konerko.
Yeah.
That was a big one. Carlos Santana was a big one. People were freaked out about. You look at prospects when they do well somewhere else and go, "Oh, how could that happen?"
Mm-hmm.
You traded Yordan Alvarez for Josh Fields, and he is now the Rookie of the Year in the American League. Sometimes you just miss, right. But for the most part, Andrew Friedman has kept the right people, and you have an MVP in Cody Bellinger. I know it didn't work out in the postseason, but he still made it work in the regular season and took them to 2 World Series. So. I trust Andrew Friedman in those senses. Dodger Dad 102 says the biggest advantage of young superstars is financial flexibility. Look at the Astros. Yes, absolutely. The fact of the matter is that all of these guys are making like $600,000 because they're still in arbitration or not even in arbitration yet. So that's a huge advantage. It's controllable years. Those are a big thing for the Dodgers. And they have so many guys below it that if they get close, like Seager is coming up close. Jock Peterson is coming up on not being arbitration eligible anymore. You move them out and bring someone else in that's still in their first or second year.
I will say that I think the Dodgers are at a bit of a tipping point because they have so many prospects that are kind of part of the same like class or group, age range, however you want to phrase it. You don't have room for all of them.
Right.
So you do need to figure something out. Either you trade some of them, and like you said, I think you do need to kind of trust Friedman in the sense that he knows which ones, for the most part, to keep and which ones to trade.
Right.
So you take that for kind of what it's worth, but they do need to do something. The team, they have the money to spend, and they have an excess number of prospects. So one or the other, I think, needs to happen.
I absolutely agree with you. I'm all for signing somebody that's worth it. I'm all for trading away some of the guys in the minor league systems for a proven guy. I think now is that time. We've talked about this many times, is that it's a luxury to be a top 5 minor league system and a top 5 major league system at the exact same time for years. you can start moving things around now and rebuilding that in another way, especially with the way that Andrew Friedman does it. He brings guys in, moves them out, brings in like Jeter Downs came in last year and Josiah Gray both came in, and they are top 10 prospects at this point. So
and look at what the Dodgers gave up in that trade.
Yeah, they gave up Matt Kemp and Yasiel Puig and Alex Wood
and Kyle Farmer.
Well, yeah, and Kyle Farmer. Yeah, and they got 2 top 10 prospects. I think he knows what he's doing, which is also makes it a little bit tough for people sometimes to trade with him because they're like, oh yeah, just give me Jeter Downs. I'll take Jeter Downs. You take all my money.
Yeah,
yeah. So it's a definitely like I think he's doing a fantastic job. So I saw this one. Where did it go? Because it was interesting. Oh, Gabe 675309. That's interesting. Dodgers bullpen 1.2 B WAR last year. Our closer alone should put that up, right? So the Dodgers bullpen, just so we're completely clear, they were the number 4 bullpen in baseball going into the postseason. Number 4 bullpen. So no matter if you want to start saying that the bullpen was terrible or whatever you want to say, in all of baseball, all major league wide, in terms of ERA, the Dodgers had the 4th best ERA.
Yeah, I think what the bullpen kind of boiled down to was Kenley's struggles.
Yep.
And Kelly's struggles.
Yep.
That's really, those were the two. And, Scott Alexander got hurt, so then he was gone. He wasn't pitching. And it's not to excuse either Kelly or Kenley, because obviously Kelly was signed last year with the intention of playing a key role.
Yep.
And he didn't, except for, a brief stretch, he really didn't meet expectations. And I think he'd be the first to admit it. And the same thing with Kenley. I mean, he pretty much since 2 years ago when the spring training going into 2018, they had their plan to cost how much they were going to pitch him, manage his workload, and then he had a hamstring issue like that. I think just sent him down a rabbit hole. Then he had heart surgery, so I think it's been a combination of everything. He hasn't been able to pull himself back up from that. And I get, the bullpen. The bullpen is one of those things that you remember when it was really bad,
right,
and not when it was
really
good.
Yeah. So, and this goes along with that. It's J Sense 26. The bullpen isn't made for the playoffs. I don't think there is a bullpen that's made for the playoffs.
Yeah, probably not. And we've talked about it. I think it's changed. Like baseball's kind of swinging back. I think to starters.
Yep.
Shouldering the load in the playoffs. You had bullpenning 2-3 years ago.
Yep.
I think it was a little bit more of a fad than
it was more. It was because you saw the Royals have that, like the Herrera and Davis and Holland 1, 2, 3, and you're like, oh, that's what you need to win. And it, that team won 1 World Series. They went to 2, but they won 1 World Series, so it didn't work.
And really, the bullpen's going to change with
the second time
with the rule with the MLB's rules, where your relief pitchers have to face, either finish the inning or face a minimum of 3 batters before you can take them out.
Yeah, which I don't know if that's actually going to happen. It seems like it's going to happen, but that ruins guys like Adam Kolarek. Like, what's the point of him now? Because he can't pitch against righties, so you have to find a spot in the lineup where he sees 3 lefties. Like that's usually not going to happen. So you're really putting your bullpen in a bad spot, and that's kind of how they were working it. And now when you're going, instead of having the 10-day IL, you're going to the 15-day IL, which then changes the way that you can put guys on and off of the injured list in order to rest them, including bullpen guys.
Right.
It just everything just kind of changes with how that works now. It still goes back to the bullpen just not being. It goes like you were saying. It goes back to the starting pitching being a bigger need, and that's what the Dodgers did in this postseason. They used Kershaw in a big moment, and let's move on. David Cano says, "Do you see us getting Donaldson?"
No, I have never really. We've talked about. I've never understood really much of the. I mean, I guess if you were possibly going to get him at 1 or 2 years, fine, maybe.
Right.
But anything beyond that, and even that, I was iffy. Anything beyond that definitely doesn't. I don't think makes sense for this team.
Yeah, it's how it works. I mean, like you're moving a 35-year-old, 34, 35-year-old guy to first base to bring in a 34, 35-year-old guy at third base.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I don't know.
And you're losing a draft pick.
Yes, Jason's 26. So do you guys think we need pitching or offense? We're actually very split on this. So Matt wants to have pitching. I want to have offense. I want to have more bats in the lineup. I want a righty power bat in that lineup that can help in the middle of the lineup that just hasn't been there. That's me. Lucio says the bullpen will be much better this year. Kenley and Kelly will have comeback years. Trainin will have a great year, and best of all, Yimmy is gone. Yimmy Garcia being gone is one of the best parts of this offseason.
Yeah, that was odd how he managed to survive the entire season with the team. But...
Shocking how he was able to. It was a home run every other outing from him. Jared Xavier Telez says, I agree that that's a fad team strategy. At the same time, Dodger starter almost never go long, so lockdown 3 would be nice. They don't go long because they're pulled out.
Yeah, so I think Buehler and Kershaw have the longest leashes. Kenta sometimes can pitch into the 5th or 6th if he's been efficient enough. I mean, a lot of that is, I don't think the Dodgers necessarily go into a game saying maybe with May and Gonsolin early on because they were still getting their feet wet. But aside from that, I don't think they say we only want our starter to go 5 innings because that's not like a sound strategy. I mean, like
if you can go 7-8 innings, they're gonna be like, yeah, all right, you got 7-8 innings.
So it's not necessarily something that they plan for. And really, we had Jeff Spiegel, one of our editorial writers. He wrote about this. I forgot. It was still during the season. I think it's a misconception that the Dodgers, how they handle their starting staff, because at the time that Jeff wrote it, they were like at worst top 3 with innings pitched from their starters.
Oh, wow.
So the starters are logging innings,
right?
So it's you're going to have maybe May and Gonsolin who are going to struggle because they're still getting acclimated to being up in the majors, but. We'll see.
Yeah, I think a lot of this is very analytic based too. So the Dodgers are very, very analytical, which everybody knows. But analytics say don't see a team 3rd time through the lineup. Yeah. That pitchers get significantly worse the 3rd time through the lineup. So that's why, I mean, when you look at it that way, most of the time when you get to around the 5th, 6th, 7th inning, you're starting to see them go through their lineup their 3rd time. So that's usually when guys go out, according to the analytics. But we've seen it happen plenty of times. Walker Buehler can go 8-9 innings. Mm-hmm. Kershaw went 7 innings almost every single outing that he went. Rue had great outings where he went 7-8 innings consistently. These were things that just kind of happened. Then you have some of the other guys that were kind of slowing it down.
Yeah, I think it's case by case, really.
Right.
I mean, and so obviously, yes, the more reliable bullpen arms you can have, obviously the better. But it's easier said than done. And like you said, the Dodgers, they had one of the better bullpens once, when you kind of looked at the entire season. And it's worth note, they're not the only team. They're not the only team that maybe had some questions. And the Nationals went into the postseason literally without Fernando Rodney was in their bullpen.
Right. And so was Hunter Strickland, who just gave up home run after home run after home run. Double dribble 17. So what is Dodgers rotation aside from Buehler? And I think we mentioned it a bit ago, but it's Buehler, Kershaw 1-2. Mm-hmm. Then it's probably going to be Aureus 3. Would you guess?
I think Maeda.
You think Maeda will go 3? So then Maeda, Aureus, May, Gonsolin, Stripling.
Stripling's in there somewhere.
Where that 3-4-5 kind of works out is how it's going to work out. I think Dustin May could fight for that 3 spot. He pitched great, especially.
He has the stuff.
Yep, he has. He has a lot of righty power arm that is really helpful. So I think you'll probably see him or Gonsolin or Stripling having that. Maybe Maeda, because they're going to start Maeda, especially to start the year because of his contract. So they have plenty of guys there. And I think, like you've said already a couple times, the NL West is garbage. You're going to get through the NL West. I don't care that Madison Bumgarner is in Arizona. He's going to get shelled. It's just not going to – none of those teams are good enough to really take over the Dodgers. So they're going to get through it, and that's all that really matters there. It's about the postseason. It's about how you're going to play in the postseason and making the right deals before that. Yeah. Let's see. I got OC Dodger Blue 22. Betances would help, again, on a 1-year deal. LA Dodger fans, Sophia says, nah, they got lucky. They didn't get. You guys are fighting Nationals on YouTube about the Nationals, which I love. Go ahead, talk to each other. It's the best part about this. Shogun Ska says, what is the future for Aureus with the Dodgers?
I mean, I think he's finally going to be a fixture in the rotation. Obviously, his shoulder surgery really threw his development off course. And they've cautious, like with Buehler and Julio, and they dial Dustin May and Gonsolin. They carefully build their inning. They don't just say, you're a rookie, go throw 180 some odd innings right away. So he should take another step forward. and be in the rotation, pretty much on a permanent or regular basis, however you want to word it.
Yeah, I mean, they've already said he's going to be in the rotation, which is great, and that's what you're looking at. Now, I think it's possible he could get traded along with somebody else to get Clevenger, or maybe he's in a deal for Betts or for Lindor, whatever it happens to be. If that's the guy that Boston wants, I think they end up making that trade. It has to be for the right guy, and I think that if it's Lindor with Clevenger, with or without Clevenger, Lindor, Clevenger, or Betts, I think they make that deal with basically whoever they want minus Lux, maybe.
Probably.
I mean, they probably would even move May or Gonsolin in that deal. Like you have the assets, and we talked about it because Keibert Ruiz is a guy that you have as a catcher that's just sitting down there. That's that can easily move. You have Josiah Gray. You have a ton of pitching down in the Jeter Downs. You just got over there, so he's not really stuck there. But still, it's another guy that's kind of blocked by Lux at this point. You have other guys that are DJ Peters possibly could be blocked. His defense apparently is not the greatest. So it's a power bat that could be in the outfield. You have guys that could very easily be moved, and all top 20, 30 prospects. Yeah. So for the Dodgers, and easily top 100 prospects in baseball as well. All right, let's get a couple more questions in. Toby Rorar says there will be good starters at the deadline. No need to panic now. 100% agree with that. Let's see. Verdugo starting. Beatty from JSense26.
I think we could see a scenario, assuming Pollock's not somehow traded this offseason, and well, I guess it depends with Bet.
If they trade him, God bless Andrew Friedman if they trade him.
I guess it also depends on whether or not Mookie Betts comes.
Right.
So looking at the roster as is, I think Verdugo will be starting in right field, assuming Bellinger is being kept in center, which I think he should be.
I mean, at this point, yeah, you're the captain out there.
Yeah.
You should definitely be there. All right, Brandon Wong says, do you think Renovation will be finished by the opening day?
I think the bleachers will be done. I don't know if all the finer details will be.
Okay. And they are, and the Dodgers have already extended all the nettings all the way down, I believe, or it may have stopped.
To the bend, like the elbow bend,
but
down the
all
lines.
of them, all of Major League Baseball, all teams will have it extended all the way down, going into. And by the way, I've sat in plenty of Dodger games now. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't make any difference whatsoever having that netting there for your view. It makes a ton of difference for not hitting babies in the face.
Yeah.
So I think that's every single stadium should have netting all the way down, both sides, without question. So it's a great thing that they're doing all of that. All right. So another thing that you got to do, was it this last week?
It was like
Turner.
the 14th or 15th, whatever the Saturday was, and then last Tuesday, him and Courtney, his wife, and the foundation, Justin Turner Foundation, they helped. They went to the Dream Center on Saturday, whatever, not this past Saturday, but 2 Saturdays ago, whatever the date was. And they were passing out gifts to kids that were at the Dream Center and that had been bussed in from kind of, underserved neighborhoods and communities and stuff like that. And then on Tuesday, the Justin Turner Foundation put together a holiday party at Children's Hospital Los Angeles for inpatients and outpatients to kind of come in. They got gifts on their way out. They got to talk to Turner, take pictures with him. Santa was there. Characters from the Disney Frozen movie were there. Wow. Therapy dogs were walking around. So it was this great event. We've already written about the first one at the Dream Center. That's on DodgerBlue.com. The one about the winter holiday party at the hospital will be up on Christmas. So you guys can look for that with quotes from the Turners on kind of their work and what they're hoping to do. So yeah. I know Rendon said there's a Hollywood lifestyle, but really, I mean,
everything Justin Turner has done is the kind of the opposite of that Hollywood lifestyle. And the JT Foundation has been fantastic, and they do a ton of great things. You were already at Pink's Hot Dogs one time.
Yeah, a couple
weeks. So the JT Foundation always does a lot of great stuff for the community. So please go check out JT Foundation as well, and you can hopefully donate for them as well, because everything they do has been great. That's going to probably just about do it. I just want to say that thank you very much to Dodger Blue. Thank you to you, Matt.
Yeah, thank you.
This is my last Blue review. I have been promoted, thankfully, to a higher position here at ESPN Los Angeles. And with it, I cannot really do any on-air stuff. It's just kind of how it's happening. So, and unfortunately, I don't have a show next week, so I can't do this show. So I'm going to. This is my last one for Dodger Blue, and really my last actual live stream period. I don't do a Lakers one anymore, and this is my last Dodger one. So thank you very much for always being there for the Blue Review. I really appreciate it. Thank you to Matt. Thank you to Dodger Blue. Always go to DodgerBlue.com. Great stuff there. And I believe Matt and Daniel Starkand, who's usually with me.
Yeah, we'll have details on a show. We're gonna definitely try to keep this going. Regular, either kind of podcast or live stream. We're gonna figure that out. But we'll have more news for you guys probably early into the new year. We're gonna really kind of hammer home the details and get that settled.
Which is great. So please stick with it. They're going to do just something like this, and it's just going to be just as good, and it's going to have plenty of great information for you. So thank you for always being on the Blue Review. That's going to do it for us. Thank you very much for being here, and DodgerBlue.com. For Matthew Moreno and at mmoreno1015, I am Greg Bergman at BergmanGreg. So have a great one, and Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah to all you Jews like me out there. All right.
Thank you, guys.
See you guys later. See ya.